The Mack boom tube catback here will appeal to a broad spectrum of Mustang owners out there, including 79 to 93 LX Fox bodies, 94 to 95 5-liter GTs, and last but not least, 94 to 04 V6 Mustangs who want an affordable full stainless system to provide your V8 or V6 with a boatload of volume. Now, full disclosure guys, we are focusing in on the SN95 V6 for this particular video, but regardless of what car you plan on installing it on, expect 2.5-inch stainless steel tubing along with these massive 4-inch rolled stainless tips, all for right around that $600 price point. Install, again, will vary depending on your platform, but the site is going to call this a strong 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter in a couple of hours or so to complete from start to finish. But if you hang till the end of the video, we'll show you how it's done on that V6. So first things first guys, let's get right into the sound you can expect when bolting up this system, in this case to your SN95 V6, and honestly it is a huge increase in sound, especially for that usually docile 3.8 liter. So breaking out my tried and true Wake the Neighbor scale here, I've got the boom tube coming in at a very strong 4 out of 5 on my 1 to 5 or 1 to Wake the Neighbor scale. Now this system certainly is going to live up to that boom tube name. One big thing I have to point out here guys is that these numbers are factoring in the aftermarket mid-pipe, which V6 owners are required to run in order to install the boom tube here to basically transform that car to a true dual. And ultimately that will have an effect on this system in regards to your volume. Now for reference sake, the car you heard at the very top of this video does also have the Pipes Off-Road X pipe installed, which is certainly going to contribute to the loudness that you guys all heard. Now as far as build quality and materials are concerned, you're going to find a very stout full stainless build, including the 2.5-inch mandrel bent tubing, mid-mounted bullet style mufflers guys, and finally these massive 4-inch rolled tips, which will make for a nice visual improvement over the factory tips, or in this case, adding that dual look to the V6 Mustang. Now those mid-mounted mufflers, guys, again, the bullet style mufflers from Mack are straight through by design and therefore will allow for both plenty of volume in addition to really freeing up the exhaust flow at the same time. So we did briefly mention earlier, guys, that the V6 owners out there will need to pair this catback up with a corresponding aftermarket mid-pipe of your choosing in order to essentially convert the car to a true dual setup. Now, since you are adding a second tailpipe, you will also need to grab a couple of extra hangers, one for the passenger side muffler and another for the exhaust tip. And just a heads up, guys, we do have the exact Ford part numbers listed on the site to help you out if you are looking for those. But as promised, now let's get into the installation. And again, since this one is a bit more labor intensive on the V6, expect a little bit more work than that 1 out of 3 wrenches on the site here might otherwise suggest. However, to give you a better idea of how this install will go down on your SN95, here's a detailed walkthrough along with that quick tool breakdown.
Tools required for this installation: 3/8 drive, various extensions, a universal 3/8 swivel is very helpful, 10mm socket ranging all the way up to 19mm socket, got an 8mm wrench ranging all the way up to 22mm wrench, 4mm Allen key, exhaust hanger removal tool, a metal Sawzall blade and a Sawzall to get your old factory stuff out of the way. I highly recommend that. White lithium grease for your hangers and your isolators, and always wear your safety protection. All right, as you can see, we're working with a Mustang with a little bit of miles on it, and it is a V6. So to make it a little easier, we're just gonna Sawzall everything off. you can see our hanger is even broken up here. So I'm gonna bring in a jack stand to support my muffler. I'm gonna grab my Sawzall. I've got safety glasses on. Just make sure you're wearing the proper protective equipment. All right, so we have one hanger over here towards the exhaust tip. I have an exhaust hanger removal tool. If you don't have one, you can use a pry bar, just some lubrication. Pretty easy to get out here. All right, so before I get the Sawzall out again, I'm gonna try to get these bolts out of here. I have a 9/16 on the bolt head. Then I have a 14 mil on the nut back here. All right, now let's try to get the other side here. Now this flange, it looks like it's already rusted off, but we'll attempt it anyways. I'm gonna go get a hammer and try to separate this and take that out as one piece. All right, so I have a hammer. I try to lower my jack a little bit. I'm just gonna hit these flanges, just like that. Get this out of here. All right, so our next step, since this is a V6 and the catback for the Mac boom tube is a dual exhaust, we need to get an X-pipe in here. So in order to get an X-pipe, we have to go from the headers back, and we're actually deleting these cats. So make sure in your state that it's legal for you to ride without these cats. If not, it's considered an off-road vehicle and you may not pass emissions. So our next step is to get these O2s unplugged up here. I have a Christmas tree clip, little push pin removal tool just to gain some access. And we're gonna unplug these and bring them down and bring those down with the tubes. Just a little clip here, push down and pull. All right, our next step is to remove the exhaust studs coming from the header into our cats. I have a 15mm socket on my air impact. And with any luck, we can break these free. All right, I already soaked that with PB Blaster. I'm gonna try to use the 1/2 inch instead of this 3/8 drive. All right, I got one of them free. Now I'm gonna move up to the top. There we go. All right, moving on to the passenger side. Get these nuts off with the impact. All right, now we're gonna get our last nut out of here. Now we have 2 nuts remaining for these hangers right in the midsection. Those are the last things holding this up. So we're gonna get a 13mm on that and get those out of here. All right, now we're gonna be removing this mid-pipe hanger section here. And as you can see, in the front there, I have it supported with a jack stand. I'm gonna now pull back on this whole exhaust system here, and it's gonna drop out of place. All right, so in order to install our Mac boom tube dual exhaust, we do have to install an X-pipe on this V6. Now this is an off-road set, so you're not gonna see any catalytic converters in here. Again, check with your local laws and make sure you're in compliance. But we're gonna get this into place now. We're gonna be reusing our factory nuts and we're gonna put them right on those studs. So I'm just going to loosely put this up here, but tight enough so it doesn't fall, but loose enough so we can still make some adjustments later on when we get everything in place. Make it a little looser. And that'll do it there. All right, bringing up the driver's side downpipe. All right, now we're gonna bring our X-pipe into place. As you can see, I put my clamps over my downpipes, and you'll see why we left our exhaust loose in a second here, so we can get this situated and on there. You may need a mallet to hit the end of the exhaust here, just to make sure it's seated in the X-pipe here. And now you can make a little bit of adjustments. Make sure your exhaust is through. Bring our clamps in and tighten those up. All right, now that we have our clamps on our X-pipe, we're gonna tighten them down. I don't like leaving them like on the bottom, so I'm gonna move them up to the top here. Make sure it is over. Just like that. Again, move it out of the way so it doesn't drag on the ground. And tighten it up. All right, so what we're gonna do now is add another hanger to our passenger side, as again, this is a V6 and it didn't come from the factory with dual exhaust. So these are just a 10mm bolt and nut with a washer on both sides. Zip this in real quick. All right, what I'm gonna do now is spray a little white lithium grease on our hangers, just to make our life a little easier. All right, now let's get our muffler section into place. Again, putting that white lithium grease is gonna make these slide in very nice. Now we're gonna connect it to our X-pipe here with some hardware. Let me get that nut started over there. All right. Again, we're just leaving everything loose right now until we get everything into position, and then we'll tighten everything up. So as you can see, we still have a lot of play with this muffler here. All right, let's get our passenger side muffler in place here. Bring this up and onto that flange there. Again, we're gonna be using those 19mm nut and bolt. We'll get our final adjustment when we get our tips on. As you can see, we still have a lot of movement in these mufflers. All right, now that our mufflers are on there, let's get our tailpipe section on. Again, we're gonna be putting our clamp on first, sliding this over the axle, and getting it somewhat into place here. It's gonna be a little bit of a tight squeeze, but you can work it in there. Slip your tailpipe over your muffler here. Give me a second. There we go, and the clamp followed with it. Just tighten down that clamp. All right, again, we're not gonna tighten down this all the way because we need to get our final adjustments when we get our tips on. I'm just making it tight enough so it doesn't move easily. Again, let's slide that clamp on and over. Let's get over this. Get over the axle. Put our muffler onto our tailpipe section here. and get that clamp on there. All right, right there should be good. All right, now it's time to get our tip in. As you can see, I already put one of our exhaust hangers for our tip in our stock rubber isolator. We're gonna slide one of our exhaust clamps onto here. Again, you're gonna wanna clock it in a position that is not gonna hit the ground and is not gonna look too out of place. So we're gonna put it up here eventually. Let's get our tip in and on. All right, I'm gonna use a rubber mallet and just hit this tip back a little bit more because I don't want it sticking past the bumper too much. And I need to get this hanger in here as well, so I'm gonna position it accordingly. All right, what we're gonna do now is tighten up our flange that connects our X-pipe to our mufflers. We're gonna be using a 19mm socket and a 19mm wrench. Now I have someone in the back pushing up on the exhaust. You can see it move here slightly. This is for clearance and for our final adjustment. Let's tighten this down as even as we can. And I'm gonna need a socket on this end here. And a little more here. All right, now let's adjust this muffler and tailpipe. Again, I have a buddy, I may need to push up right here. And again, clock these flanges in a way that they're not going to hit anything. All right, now that we have our X-pipes tightened down, I got my tip hanger in. I'm gonna use a 4mm Allen key and tighten down that tip to the hanger. And that's it right there. I'm just gonna give it a final tighten. Do this on both sides. I'm gonna clean up this tip, tighten down the rest of our stuff because we still have a slight adjustment right here, and that is at the muffler to the tailpipe. And don't forget about your tips. So let's get our 12mm socket out again and tighten those up. All right, let's tighten down this exhaust clamp here. All right, so I'm just giving a little adjustment here on the passenger side. I'm gonna tighten up this clamp. All right, now let's get the tip tightened up. All right, now let's get these O2 sensors back in and plugged up. Make sure you don't cross thread these because they are not cheap. These are a 22mm wrench. Just tighten that up. Put the passenger side in as well. Snug these up. Don't over tighten them because you don't want to break this off in that bung. Now let's see if we have enough length on these to plug them back up. Nice. All right, one of our last steps is to tighten up these down pipes coming from the headers. And I have my 15mm on a swivel socket. I'm gonna try to get these as evenly as possible. All right, that's gonna wrap up my install of the Mac Boom Tube catback exhaust for this Mustang. And for all things Mustang, keep it here at AmericanMuscle.com.